Good afternoon everyone, it's Garrett. In today's video we're going to be talking about how to create your own Destiny 2 themed thumbnail. Now I've done a lot of these for different games, whether it be Call of Duty, I've done Destiny banners before, but today we're going to be talking about thumbnails, basically how to create your own style just to kind of make thumbnails a little bit more eye-catching for Destiny itself. I personally think this style works the best. So in this video you guys are going to need access to Google, you're going to need my 16,000 subscriber pack, and then basically just a free range of creativity. Now I'm going to be going into this as in-depth as possible because some of my other tutorials I don't really explain how to do a few things. So the first thing I do want to say is you're going to need measurable looks. Now you don't absolutely need this, however it's going to help in some final up touches. They kind of make things pop in a little bit more kind of eye-catching. So now that is all said and done, let's get into the tutorial. Now looking on the screen right now, you guys can see an example that I made last night to basically show you guys what we're going to be creating. Now with this, you guys can see that glowing and blue colors is basically the main focus. Now the reason behind that is if we scroll out, we're going to see these colors first. Now this is just a personal thought, but if we head over to youtube.com and we type in like Destiny, typically we're all going to go for the colors that are super bright and have a lot more kind of contrast to them. You know, you probably leave more tone to click on this rather than one with a gradient and some white and text with a black stroke. And the reason behind that is because it's the way eyes work and it's the way we feel about the colors. And then also using certain colors will help the viewer feel a certain way. So like I said, we don't want to use any mediocre white glows and stuff like that. We're going to be creating something basically new and fresh. So going over this, we're going to need a, first of all, we're going to need a cinematic shot, which is going to be our focus on the right hand side or left, depending on where you want to put it. And then basically our text, which we can mess with next. So while I'm doing this tutorial, I do want to say if you guys want to purchase the thumbnail we're making in the video now, and then also the one on screen, there's going to be a link in the description below to my sell-fi. It's only going to be $1, so you guys can get 2 thumbnails for $1. And then basically use those for your YouTube videos, for friends, and you guys can even make thumbnails for people and sell them. So getting into the tutorial right away, we're going to open up a new document that's 1280 by 720. The reason behind that is so we don't have to downsize everything and make sure that the file size stays within, I think it's 2 megabytes for YouTube. And then we want to head over to Google and type in Destiny 2. And now the reason behind this is because we're going to need a cinematic shot to use for the thumbnail. I typically like using shots that have characters in the foreground that basically show off someone doing something, whether it be something like this. These work, that also works. Now going through these, you want to take your time and make sure that you do things that you want to use. You don't want to quickly go through these and just pick a random single one. Like I said, guys, it's not a race to who can finish first. You want to take your time and go through all of these. So in the description below, I'm going to leave a link to a few of them. This one's also a really good one. You can use something like this. Now this is really good because the background is already blurred, so when we pen tool, it will be a lot easier. And then also this website that has Destiny 2 wallpapers. So I'm going to be using this one just so I can show you guys a different example to use. This person is in the foreground, the background's a little bit blurred, and we're going to basically have a cool transition. All you have to do is copy the image and then paste it into your document and then make it a size. So when you hit Control T, you want to just take the corners, hold Shift, and size them a way that you can do this. You don't want to make the person super big, but you want them to take up a decent amount of the right side of the screen. Now this is because when you're zoomed out, it's going to be the first thing you basically see as a character since it's going to be so in front. And then once you do that, you're going to have basically a little bit of leftover on the left hand side of black. Just take your rectangle tool and highlight everything, hit Control J on your keyboard, which is going to duplicate it, or Command J, and then just drag the left hand side to the corner, and it'll basically just stretch out the side and not the rest of the image. Click both of these layers and hit Control E, and we're going to label this, we're just going to label this background. So now that we have that done, now we want to work with pen tooling the character out of the image. This is going to be very tedious and very time consuming, but you definitely want to do this the correct way. So pen tooling this, you just want to take your time and not rush anything, just because when you make the thumbnail, people are going to see this person and you don't want to have just a bunch of random shapes coming out of it. You want it to be very clean. And if you guys do need a pen tool tutorial on basically tips and tricks on how to use this, there's also going to be one in the description below. So we're going to basically have to go through this whole entire thing. It's going to take very long, so this is definitely the more tedious and more boring version of the whole entire tutorial. Just take your time, try to make the cuts as perfect as you can. Of course, if you mess up, it's nothing too crazy. You're going to have glows that are going to go over everything, but it's definitely very important to at least try. So I'm going to quickly do this for you guys, and then I'm going to pause the video and we'll be right back. Alright guys, now that we have that done, this is going to look something like this with the pen tools. All we have to do is right click and make a selection, hit OK, and then hit Ctrl J. We're also next going to hide the background, and we're going to go into little small cracks and corners like this, and we're going to have to take out these little slivers. And the reason behind that is because we're going to be putting glows on it, and once you basically have everything taken out, it'll look a lot cleaner. You don't want these extra kind of lines coming through, just because it's going to stop your image from looking the best it can. And it doesn't take too long to kind of delete these. It really takes like a few seconds to do each one. And the reason behind this is, like I said, is to make the glows better, and it just looks cleaner overall that you're taking your time and you're not rushing through everything. So really easy. You can of course go back and like touch up a few things, take away some stuff that you think is unnecessary. And then once we're finally done with that, all you have to do is start doing enhancements. Now with enhancements, it's going to be a little bit more tricky. You're going to need to understand light and shadow, which of course I can do another video on if you guys really want an in-depth video about that, but you're basically going to get a quick synopsis of how everything works in this video. Now that's basically everything light-wise of what is going on. I have a few kind of lights coming off his head, so I'm actually going to duplicate him. Actually, I'm just going to duplicate his head. And then I'm going to hit filter, blur. I'm going to put a little bit of a motion blur. Actually, maybe I'll put a Gaussian blur. Now this is just for the lights on his head. There you go. And then of course we can just like feather these in. We're going to be putting lights on top of that anyway. So now that we have that, the reason behind all this kind of stuff is to make sure that the guy in the front always comes above everything else. Now we want to go in and basically make things pop a little bit more. The way we can do that is unhiding the background and go to this little half circle and go to exposure and just put the exposure to the left and the gamma correction to the right, and then go to the half circle again and click black and white. Excuse me, I'm losing my voice real quick. We can go back to the exposure after we do that to kind of mess around a little bit more, but I personally think this is just fine. So now that we have that, we're going to work off a color scheme. Now I personally think that blue is a really good color. It really depends on what you want to use. It's going to be an outer glow, however, and you can use orange, you can use yellow. Like I said, I typically like working with blues. For some reason, if I just see blue, I think it just looks a little bit cleaner. Make sure the blend mode's on normal, and just put the size up and the spread up a little bit as well. And this is just basically going to be a glow around the character. You can also put an inner shadow or an inner glow, and once you do this, you're going to have to make it either a very bright blue to kind of contrast everything else, or you have to make it a white. So I would use a very light blue and then lower the opacity. So like you can see that it gets really, really light and then it starts coming out. The reason behind this is it's the way light works. A really good example is the Star Wars posters. If you guys ever look at the lightsabers, you're going to quickly understand exactly what I'm saying. See, they go very white. They're very white, and then the colors come out of it. That's because white is basically the lightest part of it. And now that we have that, we can start messing around with effects. Now I'm going to duplicate the guy, and I'm going to add a layer style that I made myself. Now you can basically just do other things. You don't have to basically follow exactly what I'm doing, but I'm just going to do this way. And the reason behind I did this just because I personally think that it adds a nice contrast to it. If you don't have a layer style that basically makes everything glow, you guys can find them in pretty much any pack. I don't have any in my pack specifically, but you guys can find them in packs all over. So now that we have that, we're going to start working around everything else. We want to really work with the background first and everything else around it. So going to the 16K pack, we want to go to the light leaks and just grab basically a blue or grab a green. Doesn't really necessarily matter because we're going to be going over it. And we can just put him above the guy, grab the color, drag it to blue, maybe up the saturation a little bit. Take your eraser, and we're just going to be erasing around the side a little bit like this. So he has a glow to him, but it's nothing too crazy. We can of course go and we're going to keep grabbing different ones. And the reason behind we're doing all this stuff like this is because we really want to start creating a dynamic feel through it, that we're going to be focusing on the color blue. I'm going to be erasing on top of his head a little bit, and you don't want the colors to be too overwhelming on top of the person. And I personally think this is a reason that people overdo it, that they start putting colors on and they go crazy about them. Adding light leaks on top of the face, adding light leaks on top of the body, just crazy things like that. And of course you can add more. Just definitely be rational about what you're doing with these. It's very important. So now that we have that, I do want to add just a little bit of a light on top of his head right here with these blues. The reason behind that is because I think I can see the sharpening, and it's kind of giving me a tedious feel. So literally all we had to do is just take the brush and add a quick couple blue strokes. And then we zoom out and you can see that they're a little bit more lit up. I'm going to take my eraser and click above it and blow it. So now that we have that, we're going to start going through packs and we're going to start going through things that we can use. So personally, light leaks is usually what I stick to. You guys can use tech and plexus things inside my pack. Now you do not want to overuse these at all. Make sure that they have a little bit of a Gaussian blur to it, that you don't want to see those exact kind of stocks come through. And you can basically put it wherever you want. Like I said, guys, you want to just keep messing around with this. And you definitely want to focus on the guy first before you start doing things over to the text. So I'm going to keep going through this. Just keep grabbing things, keep messing around. You can add stocks like this and go to adjustments and put into a black and white. And then you can mess with these. Personally, I like to just put them on top and then scroll through different things. Like overlay would look really cool. And then I'll take my eraser and then I'll erase around and just keep messing around. I can keep dragging the same stock in and keep doing the same thing. And now that we're doing this, you guys can start seeing that things are starting to come together a lot more. Like I said, it's really about taking your time and just keep messing with things. You don't want to rush anything. So I'm going to keep adding them. We can totally switch it up. We can grab something like this. We can maybe keep that the same color and scroll through our list. See which one looks a little bit nicer. We can probably use this one, and I'm going to put it below the character this time just so I can see it pop out a little bit more with these lights. Put one above everything, and we're just going to keep throwing everything around. Like I said, it's really about going around with what you like. And then of course we can take colors like this and we can mess around with them. I like grabbing maybe ones like this. We're going to have to add it and put it to a blue color just so it matches the whole entire thing. To get to this blue hue and saturation, all you have to do is click the Control U, and then you can scroll through these. Make that a little bit bigger. So you can definitely see that this is starting to get a little bit more of a feel to it. Now it might not look too clean to you right now, but when we zoom out, it's going to start looking a little bit better. What we want to do is just make a new layer and grab your brush to a bigger size, maybe about like 100 to 150. And we're going to grab just a single blue color and try to make it match everything. You don't need to be exactly on point. And then you just want to add a quick couple dabs of colors like that and lower the opacity a little bit. Now this is just to blend everything a little bit more, and we can start going back into the pack. Particles are going to be a huge thing just because particles will help blend things. Just put them on top, take your eraser, hitting U on the keyboard, erase a little bit around everything, and just keep grabbing different kind of stocks. And you can add stocks, you can take away stocks. You don't have to basically stick to a certain rule book, excuse me. But definitely something you want to go through. Going into the smoke tab of my pack, dark clouds like this really help. Put them on an overlay. and then just erase the character and erase around just like that. Now that we have that, we can go to the little half circle again and click an exposure, and we can just make a little bit brighter of an exposure and a little bit of a darker gamma correction. And then also going back into the background of it, we can make it a little bit darker. So now we have this kind of cool cinematic look to the guy, and then we can start putting things over here. Now, you don't have to stop here. You guys can totally go into different packs. You guys can go into Google and find different things. This is just personally where I think that I like to stop. There's a bunch of other things that you guys can do. There's stocks like this inside of it. All you have to do is drag them in and put them to, you know, any color. You can literally click on normal and then hit right on your keyboard a bunch of times, and it'll just scroll through everything. And you might even find, you know, your new favorite kind of style or new favorite stock. And this is just a way that you can be more creative and learn more about Photoshop and more about, you know, making styles that match your thing. It's really helpful. You know, these are really cool tips. Lighting is not really necessary on this. You know, you can add maybe like a blue light on top of his head or maybe in the middle. But like I said, don't put too overwhelming colors on top of the person, because you still want to see what's going on about him. So now that we have that, the next thing we want to do is start adding text. So I'm going to add text, and the first text is going to need to be Destiny 2. Now the reason behind this is because we want the kind of person watching to know exactly what we're uploading. Like I said in examples before, if you go over to youtube.com and type in Destiny 2, most of the thumbnails is going to have the word Destiny 2 in it. For example, Destiny 2, Destiny 2, and then, you know, that basically goes on Destiny 2. So this is the reason why we want to go into this and basically break down how everything looks and make sure that you have everything going on together. So all we have to do is put Destiny 2. For font choice, really doesn't matter. I like using more tall fonts rather than wide fonts. For example, the tall font would be something like Evo Gria, and a wide font would be something like Proxima Nova. See, I like using tall fonts. I'm gonna leave a link in the description to a bunch of them. There's Evo Gria, long shot, but typically I like to keep it clean for this. So now that we have that, all you want to do is put that down there, hit Control J, and then bring this down, and then you want to start adding basically what the video is about. For example, this one's just going to be exclusive, and then we're going to put thumbnail. So once you have that done, hit Control T on the keyboard and make sure that the right side of the characters line up with the right side of the other ones. Bring it down, hit Control J, make sure it's the same spacing, and then we're going to put the word thumbnail. And we're going to do the same exact thing, just make sure that the sides line up. And it might be a little bit of an annoying part to do this, however, it looks really good and it's very worth it. Now you can put this below things. Personally, I don't like to put it below anything, but you can put it literally below the character. Maybe make it a little bit bigger, and then we can start messing with layer styles. So I'm gonna put that right there. I'm actually gonna make it a little bit taller, and then we're gonna start messing, like I said, with color styles and layer styles. Now, if you guys have pre-made layer styles, this is not gonna be hard. They come in a bunch of packs. You guys can use basically anything you want. You just want it to have a nice kind of shape to it and a nice emboss to it. So we're gonna go to blending options, and we're gonna go to gradient, and all you want to do is basically add a color gradient and put it to white, and then put it to a nice kind of darkish gray, and then hit OK and put it to reflected. And then if it doesn't work too correctly, you can see that the gray is in the middle. Hit reverse, and then you're going to see that the gray is on each side. For inner shadow, you can basically keep it white, or you can put it to black. I like to keep it white. And for drop shadow, just mess around with it and how you think which looks best. You don't want it to be too crazy, and then of course you can add it after. The last thing you want to do is go to bevels and emboss in your effects, and just put the black to really, really strong. And then the depth, you want to put a little bit. You want to just make it really hard and the size really low, maybe about 1, and then lower the depth, and then change the color to like a grayish area. So now we have that done. This is going to be basically our, layer style. you just go to right click, blending options once again, and click new style, and then we can just hit OK. And then it's going to get saved into the bottom of your layer styles. Just click it onto every single one of the thumbnails. And then we're going to go to the middle text, which is going to be the word exclusive. Right click on it, go to blending options, gradient overlay. And then we're going to actually make this a blue color. So we're basically just kind of messing around with things. We're being very creative with this, and we're not just sticking to a certain rule book. So now that we have that, you guys can keep it under the character. You can put it above everything. It really just depends on the way you want things to look. I personally don't like putting it below all the stocks, but I like putting it below the character. So we can do that. We can also move the person a little bit. Let's just say go over here. But I like to keep it exactly where I'm at. So now that we have that, all you want to do next is group these thumbnails. Just click the first one, hold shift and click the third one. Hit Control G and then go to edit, skew, and just take the right corner and bring it up a little bit and then bring this down. Now the word Destiny might be a little bit hard to read. You can move everything around and make sure that you can read things, but from far away, I basically know what's going on. It's a Destiny exclusive thumbnail. And then we can basically next make a new layer and then hold Alt and clip it onto the group one. Hit B on your keyboard and grab a black color and just make that a dark color so it looks like there's a shadow. So now that we have that done, if you want to go through your stocks and find which ones are on top of your text, just to kind of delete and kind of make sure that it doesn't overwhelm everything, you can basically just quick hit the eye, or quick hitting the eyes on the left hand side of the images, or excuse me, the left hand side of the images. This is so that you can basically just go through everything and then you can find it. So after I'm done with that, I just want to make a new layer below the text, and I'm going to take the black and I'm just going to do a quick black swipe around everything, and then we're going to do our final touches. So final touches are going to be very easy. Grab the background layer, hold shift and click the top, hit Control G, which is going to group literally everything on that layer. Hit Control J, duplicate it, and then we're going to click our little rectangle tool again. We're going to highlight everything and then hit Control J once more. Delete that second layer, like the one on the bottom, and we're going to label this base and hit Control J. And now that if you guys don't have Magic Bullet Looks, this is the time that you guys want to start looking into videos to get it. So once we click Magic Bullet Looks, we're going to go to File, New Look, and then go to Post, grab curves, make it brighter. So we're going to definitely just keep raising these a little bit. The first three you want to raise, and then the last two you want to start bringing towards downwards a little bit. You don't want to go too crazy. Edge softness, which is going to create kind of a edge blur, a vignette, which is going to make it a little bit darker. Of course, you can zoom out just to mess with it. Lens distortion, I always think that lens distortions look cool on thumbnails, just like this. Now you can add anamorphic flares, but I personally don't recommend it. We're gonna go to the pop, and we're just gonna drag the pop to the right about 66 plus, and then go to Chromatic Aberration on the subject tab as well, and we're gonna drag it to the right. Click finished, and then it's gonna load, it's gonna buffer, and then it's gonna be added, and then we got a thumbnail going on. Now we can just take the eraser and we can just click on the head maybe a little bit. Now I personally am gonna click once on the head and leave everything else the same, maybe the gun as well. And we're gonna just merge everything, hitting the first layer and the second layer and hitting Control E. Hit Control J once more and then go to blur, go to Gaussian blur, and put a blur on that's about 2.2. And then we're gonna hit E and we're gonna erase the text first and the corners. And then we're basically gonna erase the character except for maybe his gun, so that his gun is still a little bit blurred out and everything looks good. So that's going to be the tutorial. This is going to be the thumbnail. Now if you want to save it and use it, go to File, Export, and then Save for Web Legacy, and save it as a PNG. The reason why you want to save it as a Web Legacy is so the file size isn't as large. So like I said, guys, if you want to purchase these two thumbnails, all you have to do is go into the description below and click on the sell-fi link. Like I said, it's only $1. You can basically take $1 from a friend. You guys can go gamble it on skinhub.com. You guys can do whatever you want about it. but this is $1. It's going to basically help just me in general. So this is going to be it. I hope you guys really enjoy this tutorial. I hope I explained everything pretty well, as it did take 25 minutes to record. If you guys have any tutorial suggestions, video suggestions, if you like seeing these thumbnail tutorials and you want to see maybe header tutorials, banner tutorials, more in real life videos, logo designs, whatever it might be that you want to learn, let me know in the comment section below. And if you guys definitely learned from this, of course, let me know in the comment section. And then also just basically send me a message on Twitter, show me examples that you guys have made, and linkers in the description. So the last thing I do want to say, for the people who have made it this far, my Discord chat is up. All you have to do is click in the link in the description below and join my Discord. It's really cool. We're gonna have a bunch of people come into here, and I'm just trying to create a big family for everyone to learn design. So like I said, guys, it's been Garrett. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Peace out.